mix on the beat.
Man who got us started in our study of heredity by working with his people and to trace the past genetically. He worked with 7 traits, all of which showed simple dominance, but later we discovered other routes for inheritance. Before we take a look at other patterns of inheritance, let's talk about a pedigree and how we might use this. It's a graphic representation of genetic information used to track traits and find familial causation. They use a pretty standard setup with some boxes and some circles. The boxes represent the boys, the circles represent the girls. If the shapes are shaded in, the person shows the trait. A horizontal line between 2 shapes represents a mate. The lines connected vertically show how kids come from the parents, and this is how we trace back the roots of inheritance. It's an example that we're looking at. Both these boys have it, but when we trace it back, we do not find it in the parents. By simple Mendelian genetics, we know this trait's recessive, and though the parents didn't show it, they both had a little allele to give. Brother and the sister would both be carriers too, because no matter how you look at it, that's little alleles coming through. Pedigrees are helpful if we want to trace a trait. It can also help you out if you want to calculate the possibility of your offspring showing up with the trait, or understanding if the trait will be masked or dominate. Man who got us started in our study of heredity by working with his people and to trace the past genetically. He worked with 7 traits, all of which showed simple dominance, but later we discovered other routes for inheritance. Now let's talk about the other 2 types of dominance that go a bit beyond Mendel's simple inheritance. Incomplete dominance results in a mix of phenotypes, like pink flowers coming when you cross reds and whites. Codominance results in both traits being expressed, like the red and white rhododendron when you cross whites and reds. Both these types of dominance are only seen in heterozygotes, where different alleles are present, unlike homozygotes. Next, we're going to look at multiple alleles for a gene. When this inheritance is present, several forms of the trait are seen. Remember, no matter how many alleles are out there to be had, an individual will only have 2, one from mom and one from dad. Another pattern that produces variations of a trait is polygenic inheritance. Let's use height to illustrate. In Middle's pea, plants there are 2 heights, either tall or short, but in human height, the possibilities look more like a bell curve. That is to say, there are some people who are very tall, but when compared to everybody, that number is very small. Likewise, really short folks would be few in number as well. Most average people would find their height in the middle of the bell. This is true for many traits we see in the human race, like hair color, eye color, height, and some aspects of your face. This particular type of non-Mendelian inheritance provides a vast variety in the phenotypes expressed. Man who got us started in our study of heredity by working with his people and to trace the past genetically. He worked with 7 traits, all of which showed simple dominance, but later we discovered other routes for inheritance. In humans, we have 23 pairs of chromosomes in our bodies. 22 are homologous, which basically means they have the same genes. The other pair are sex chromosomes, can be different or the same. 2 X's make you female, where an XY makes you male. There are some traits we found to be on the X and not the Y. This was discovered by Morgan through his work with a fruit fly. When working with his flies, he found a male with white eyes through a series of experiments with red and white-eyed flies. Morgan concluded that some genes are connected to sex chromosomes. Most of these are on the X, but a few call the Y chromosome home. If the sex and trait is recessive, then the male has nothing to mask it. For a female to express it, both their parents would have to pass it. As if this wasn't already hard enough, gender also determines how some traits show up. Both sexes will carry sex-limited genes, but typically only in one sex will the trait be seen. Finally, sex-influenced will show up different. It might be recessive in females, but in males it's dominant. So heredity is not as simple as Mendel would have it to be. It's random and it's complicated, but leads to so much beauty. Take human eyes, for instance, the colors of our skin. There's so much variety out there that I can't even begin to explain the variations or the subtle differences that make each person unique and provide endless images. Mendel got us started in our study of heredity by working with his people and to trace the past genetically. He worked with 7 traits, all of which showed simple dominance, but later we discovered other routes for inheritance.